We've all had that experience of pulling up to a stoplight and of seeing someone in need on the curb beside us. We've all had that experience. Amen? The story is told of one actress who was on Rodeo Drive and pulled up to the light and saw there a man holding out his hand. And she rolled down the window and he said, "Please, please, I haven't eaten in 4 days." And she looked over her glasses and she said, "I wish I had your willpower." Sisters and brothers, today's scriptures talk to us about a group of people who are experiencing real needs. They were passing through the wilderness, these Israelites, where there was no food and there was no water, and they were relying on God. Follow me? Which is why I love today's first reading from the book of Exodus. Because these Israelites who were wandering through the wilderness without food and without water, trusting in God, at one point they began to grumble, grumble, grumble. We probably all know a person or two in our lives who likes to grumble, grumble, grumble. Maybe that person is ourselves from time to time.
Amen. Amen. I second that.
Grumble, grumble, grumble. That was the story of the Israelites in the desert, without food and without water. And in today's first reading, Moses goes to the Lord and says, "Lord, I've got a problem here. These people are on the point of stoning me because I led them out of slavery in Egypt and toward the promised land we're going. But in the meantime, we have no food and we have no water." Grumble, grumble, grumble. But what does God do in today's first reading? God provides those Israelites life-giving water. Now, turn to the person beside you and share what are the words that come to mind when you think of a nice glass of water after a day of hard work, or when you're really, really thirsty. What are some of the words that you'd use to describe that water? Turn to the person beside you and share a few of those words. And Marcus said, "Go."
Sounds good to me.
Because that's what the Israelites were experiencing, follow me? Those life-giving, refreshing waters that God provided them as God led them out of slavery in Egypt and to the promised land. In today's second reading, I love it that St. Paul tells the Romans, Paul, like the Israelites, is on a journey. But Paul is not heading to the promised land so much as Paul is heading to Rome. And you know what's going to happen to Paul in Rome? That's where he's going to die. Paul is going to die in Rome, and he knows that his days are coming to a close. And in today's second reading, he talks about how it is that God's love has been poured into our hearts. What a beautiful image, huh? This is what our heart is like after God has poured God's love into our hearts. It's up to us to be that life-giving water for others, to share of those waters with those around us. Which is why I love today's gospel, because in today's gospel, Jesus starts to share the life-giving waters that he has as well. He was a man, she was a woman. In that age, men didn't speak to women they didn't know. Follow me? He was crossing a line. He was a Jew, she was a Samaritan. Jews didn't speak to Samaritan. Jews did not speak to Samaritans back then, follow me? He was crossing another line. And why did he, a Jewish man, speak with her, a Samaritan woman, and cross that line? Because of those life-giving waters. And he told her, if I give you these life-giving waters, you'll never have to come back to this well to draw stagnant water from a well again. Brothers and sisters, we're now in the middle of Lent. Our Lenten journey is halfway over. How are you doing? Perhaps it's time this week for us to look into our hearts and to see what we find there. Do we find stagnant waters? And let's just be honest. Relationships can get a little stagnant if we're not pouring life-giving waters into them. Amen? Relationships can be like a fire that starts to die down unless we fan it into flame again. Relationships are dynamic. So as we look into our hearts, in what relationships do we find a bit of stagnant water? And how is it that we might take that love of God which has been poured into our hearts and share that with those around us? All those words that you came up with to describe water, life-giving, refreshing, great, cool, is that how your love is for others? Now that we're halfway through Lent, let's consider how it is that we might quench the thirsts of those around us and bring them the life-giving waters that have been poured into our hearts. Jesus did it as a model for us. Now it falls to you and to me, to all of us, to do it as well. Nourished by this word and the sacrament, let's go out those doors today and let's nourish others with life-giving water.